Hello, children. This is Grandma's Angels coming to you again with another new message. And today I would like to talk about Anne Frank. Now, I'm sure you children must have heard that name in your history books or somewhere in school. And what I'd like to talk about is her writings in her journal. That she was a very good journal keeper for 2 years. And anyway, a little bit of history on her. And I'm going to give you a quiz at the end, so please listen along. The Diary of Anne Frank, which documents the 2 years of hiding in the Amsterdam warehouse annex to avoid Nazi persecution, has sold more than 30 million copies. And it has been translated into 70 languages, her journal. Her diary gives the world a glimpse, a look at the world of a young Jewish girl living during the time of the Nazi-occupied Holland. She died after, let me back up. She was 4 years old. She was born in 1929. Hitler took power in 1933. So she was 4 years old when he came into power. By the time she was 13 years old, her family knew that they were going to be killed or annihilated with the rest of the Jews. And so they went into hiding in an Amsterdam warehouse annex, which is a little attic. It's a big warehouse building, but there was a little attic that had some steps going up to it, and that's pretty much where they hid for 2 years. They had to stay very, very quiet so nobody would hear them from the outside and know that there were people hiding up there. So it was the Frank family that hid up there, the mother, the father, and the 2 daughters, and then some friends of theirs, and also a man that worked for Mr. Frank. Otto Frank was his name. Anyway, so they were hidden up there for 2 years. So when Anne turned 13, they went into hiding. At 15, they were discovered. When she was 15 years old, they were discovered, and they were taken to concentration camps where Anne died of typhoid fever, and the mother, Edith, died from starvation, and the older sister, Margot, was suspected of dying with typhoid as well, like Anne did. There are no proven records, but that's the speculation of how she died. Anyway, typhus is an infectious disease, and it's usually transmitted through lice, ticks, mites, rat fleas, all sorts of dirty little animals like that. And their conditions in there was terrible. They were not given food. They didn't have restrooms to go to the bathroom there. So, it was pretty horrible conditions. They had to stay in the same clothes. They never changed their clothes, never took a bath, a shower, because they couldn't. There was no facilities like that. It was not comfortable at all. They had to sleep on the floor or on these little dirty cots. So, and the conditions were very unclean and very harmful to the body. Anyway, many, many people died in those concentration camps. And that's how Edith, the mother, died, and Margot and Anne died. And the father lived. He survived the concentration camp, and he lived to be 80 years old. Anyway, he's the one that had Anne's journal published. So after they were found out about in the annex, in the attic, a Dutch lady found the journal scattered on the floor and everything, and she grabbed it all, and after the war was over, she gave it to Otto, the father who survived. And Otto, pained at reading his daughter's thoughts and everything, her journal was just wonderful, sad, happy, lonely. It had all the emotions of the human emotions that we all have. Anyway, when he read it, his family told him, you need to have that published and let the world see what Hitler did to the Jewish people and how inhumane it was. And like I said, over 30 million copies were bought on this journal. And the reason her journal was so successful is because she had all the human emotions in there in the 2 years of writing that we all experience at some time or another. She felt desperate at times. She felt very sad and depression. And then there was other times that she was very positive and optimistic. She was curious. She was only 13, 14, and 15 years old during that time when a little girl is starting to come into young adulthood, and she's curious about things. She's hopeful for the future. She would sometimes look out the tiny little attic window and just watch the birds fluttering around in the tree, and it gave her so much joy and hope, and she let her mind wander to what her future would be. She didn't know she was going to die in the concentration camp. And she was observant of many things around her, the people that she was living with quietly in the attic, the birds, the sky, everything that a little girl could imagine, she wrote in her journal. She would laugh sometimes and tell some silly jokes in there. And most of all, she had a very creative imagination. And that's something we all should have, is a creative imagination. Now, the reason I'm talking about Anne Frank is because I believe so strongly in journal entries, in journal keeping. I wish you children would go get a notebook and start a journal of your own. The years that you're living in your childhood, you won't remember every day. When you grow up, you'll remember key things, events that come and go in your life, good or bad. You'll remember those things, but you won't remember your day-to-day thoughts or your day-to-day happenings and actions and fun times and your friends and things like that. That will be forgotten. Many of those little memories will be forgotten. But if you keep a journal and 10 or 20 years from now look back and flip a page and read, oh, I remember that. It's such a wealth of information. It's very healthy to write your thoughts down. Journal keeping, I feel very strongly about. Like I've said in another episode, I have 28 books of journals. I'm just started my 29th. So I'm not going to take them with me when I die, but my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, they will know of my life here on earth and my ups and downs and my good decisions and my not so good decisions, my mistakes and my things I've done right. So they'll get to know me even though I've passed from this world and I might not be able to spend any time with them before I leave. So anyway, I just think it's very important if you children start writing a journal, and like I said, it's very healthy. You get your thoughts out on paper. If you don't have someone you can talk to, get it out on paper and just put it away. And it helps to get it out of you. All right, so I'm going to give you a little quiz now and see how much you've listened to me, okay? So here's the first question. When and where I didn't tell you this. She was born in Frankfurt, Germany in 1929. Sorry, I just answered that question, but anyway, that's where she was born. And the next question is, why was the Frank family in hiding? And for how long? They were in hiding. Oh, you've got the answer to this, I'm sure, but I'll go ahead. They were in hiding for 2 years, and it was because Hitler became ruler, and he was trying to persecute and kill all the Jews. So they had to hide from him and his army. But they were found out about, as I said earlier. Okay, and the third question is, how did Edith, the mother, die, and how did Margot, the older sister, and Anne Frank die? Like I said, Edith died from starvation. Any little crumbs of food that she could find, she gave to her daughters because she thought they need to live before she does. Well, she did end up dying from starvation. They didn't give them any food. They scrounged they ate worms and bugs and whatever just to try to stay alive. And Margot died of Margot and Anne both died of typhus fever. And like I said, infectious disease from the lice and the ticks and the other little critters. So, last question is, why is a journal important to keep daily entries in? Why? This is I can't express to you children enough that you should get a journal, write in it, draw pictures in it, do whatever you want. It's your personal journal. And it can make you happy. It can release emotions, just like Anne had all those emotions in her. That's what made her journal so popular. And she left a legacy about her family, her friends, her hatred of the war, her love for life, her dreams that were unfulfilled. So when you put all of that in a book form, in a journal form, her father was able to get that published. And now I'm not saying your journals or my journals are ever going to be published. They're not. But you can keep it for your own memory, for your own sake, to see what you've done in your lifetime here. You get one chance at this life. Put some of it on paper. You may not put every detail in, that's fine, but put some of it on paper, and one day you'll look back, or when you grow up and have children, they'll see your journal and say, "Oh, Mommy, did you do this? Daddy, did you? I didn't know that you did that." You'll be surprised, and you'll say, "Oh, I forgot all about that." But if you put it in a journal, it's right there for the reading, for the memory. So again, I'm talking about journal keeping. Let Anne be a good inspiration to you. If you can get her book and read it, you'll see what I'm talking about with the journal entries. Very, very good thing to have in your life. And I think it's very healthy for us. And it'll make you happy sometimes, sad other times. And all of that is part of our human nature, to have all these different emotions. Put them on paper, okay? That's all I want to say for today is go read the Diary of Anne Frank. I think you'll really enjoy it. And I know I did. And so this is Grandma's Angels coming to you again. Please remember to be your best you. Put it on paper. And be kind to everybody. Make sure that you show kindness in this world, okay? And you are loved. You are loved. Just remember that. And we'll see you again next time. Have a wonderful day. Alrighty. Bye-bye.